So a new Ferrari 330 GT2 Plus 2 got dropped off at the shop today. This car, I haven't seen this car in at least 8 years, if not longer, probably closer to 10. It was used to be a customer of ours up here in the Northeast, and sold it to a guy down south, and it's lived in Georgia for the last several years. Talking to the owner, he's got a couple things going on with the car, and he figured, it's been long enough. Let me send it back to Tom and have him go over it. A couple little things, or several things on the list. He figured if he's going to send it up here, I might as well go over quite a few things, and let's go over some of it, and at least give you a tour of the car. Like I said, just fresh from the from the truck, so it still has the wrapper and everything on the seats and everything, but. It's a good driving car. I mean, it's got, let's see, 64,000 miles on the car. I remember doing the compression check on this car years ago. It was decent. It's not a fresh engine, but it certainly runs fine. The one thing on this car inside is that it's got these toggle switches, replaced all the rocker switches that kind of go on this area here, but we're trying to figure out whether or not it's possible to replace this and put the rocker switches back. Someone did a really nice job upholstering this panel so it looks like it belongs, and that's where they went all these toggle switches. But at the same time, that's not how they did it. And also has this kind of funky, center console. And even though it's nice and it makes a nice armrest, it's not correct for a Series 2 330. So we're gonna look into it. I mean, it's one of these projects that if we can find the pieces and parts, that would be great. But if we can't, then that's okay too. It's just been on the project list. The rest of the interior is pretty nice. It's again one of these interiors that are just pretty nice and straightforward, and clean, and so it's doesn't need much. I mean, you could just use it like this, and the owner would probably leave these toggles here, but it's just one of those things where it's here. We'll go through it. Let's jump out and take a look at the engine. So one of the things that he wants to do in the engine is obviously he started tuning carburetors. The car hasn't had a chance to drive it much, so the carburetors kind of just got a little clogged up, and then he tried tuning them and balancing them, and he wasn't sure if he was doing it right. I mean, the thing with the V12s and all these 3 carburetor setups is that having no reference, you read all the books and they tell you how to do it, but until you've actually done several of them, it's like you're not sure if you're headed in the right direction. And when I got it, kind of idled funny, and just needs some time to go through it. This car has, like I said, it's a Series 2 car. Let's see what it's power steering. It's got a aftermarket alternator, so it's missing the original alternator. Let's see, what else do we have? I mean, the air cleaner should be semi-gloss black, but it's been painted wrinkle. Little things here and there, like the trim around the hood is incorrect. It's missing the prop rod for the hood, so what'll happen is it just kind of goes straight up. It's also missing there's these little braces that go across here. It's got he put the correct hood pad in, but it's missing these little aluminum strips that go across. Maybe we'll try to find that at some point. Let's go to the other side here. It's got an aftermarket air conditioner compressor. Probably works way better than the original York unit, but that's not correct on this car. There's some finishes, like the exhaust shields could probably use some painting. He's got the fuse cover in the trunk, but that's not correct, and I think that's not even correct for a Series 2 car, so we'll have to look into that. I don't think the guy's going to show the car. It's not necessarily that I'm going to do everything so I can make it all, for a big show. It's really just the easy stuff. Just correct it and just make the car that much nicer. You know, the car's pretty good. I mean, it's got decent paint. It's got a couple little dings and scratches and stuff. You know, the paint's just it's nice. It's just, you know, it's a driver. It's nothing crazy, but certainly presentable and pretty good. One on the car I see, just as from my memory on this, is that the grill's been blacked out. Somebody painted the grill black as opposed to leaving it the original aluminum. It's not bad here with the silver car. Kind of gives it a little bit of contrast, but you know, I'm sure why it was painted was probably because the aluminum was so corroded. It was easier to just paint it by a previous owner than to try to polish it. So, but again, you know, the rest of the car is pretty good, and I'm gonna get some work and see what I could do about these carburetors. So we'll see some work getting done on it. We're inside the a Series 2 330 2+2. I just messed around with the carburetors a little bit. This is the car that I haven't seen in a while. So let's take it out for a drive. So I adjusted the carburetors. I got them better. It revs probably around 900 RPM, 1,000, but the problem I have is it just has a little bit of a lazy throttle. So in other words, when I step on the throttle, it goes up and then it slowly comes down. That's usually from vacuum leaks. Carburetor should probably be done. You know, it probably should be, you know, there's probably base plates and all that other stuff, but I'll talk to the customer. We'll take a look, but let's first take it out for a drive. I haven't driven this car in ages. Well, you know, I guess I should put on my seatbelt, huh? Let's see, what do we have for seatbelts here? Of course, I can't find any of them. There we go. Always to be safe, a little safe. All right, here we go. I hear a little bit of a brake squeak coming back, but that also just might be because the car's been sitting around for a while. See how the revs don't come down? So let's just take it back here. A little damp out this morning, so not gonna like really get on it. Carburetor's a little snappy. Might need to richen them up a little bit more. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I can also smell the gas in this car. It's super old. So sometimes when you tune in these carburetors, you're chasing your tail until you get rid of some of this bad gas. Yeah, you can hear it just snapping away. Yep, you definitely hear that snapping and popping. Check it when we get back. Probably just needs the mixture screws need to come out a little bit. It's probably vacuum leaks. I mean, when you think about like that slow idle, that's kind of like lazy to come back down, it's probably because air is getting sucked into the base plates. And what ends up happening, and then when I go on the accelerator, you're sucking more air into the accelerator through the base plates, not through the metering. So what happens is you get popping and spinning because it's running lean. Oh, brakes are really like... brakes are kind of scary. Gotta pump them a little bit. Yeah, you definitely feel some carburetors not happy. Yeah, you see brakes will be there when you pump them, but they're not really there on the first time you hit the brakes. All right, so gotta figure out what's going on with these brakes, why they need so much travel to even start working. I have to think about that. It feels like it's boosted though. It definitely feels like it's assisted, but it's just a lot of travel before the brakes even start to engage. And what we can do first is do a brake bleed. There could be just air in the system too. That's the other thing. I always feel like whenever you do these cars, you try to do easy things first. I mean, you don't go in and just, sometimes you wish you could just go in and do everything, but sometimes with the amount of miles that these guys drive these cars, you're trying to figure out, like, sometimes it just needs a little bit of tuning and it'll be fine. You go and do all the work and all of a sudden you got a car that's good for when you send it back, but he's going to not drive it for put maybe 100 miles or 200 miles a year on the thing, and then it just, all the work you did is for nothing. I definitely believe that there's a balance. Like for instance, the brakes. Right now, brakes kind of go to the floor, first pump, second pump works better. Okay, we could say, okay, it's master cylinder, something's wrong with the master cylinder, got to pull that. But before we do any of that stuff, let's bleed the brakes. I mean, I may not have seen this car for 8-10 years, but maybe the brakes haven't been bled in 8 or 10 years, and it's just got some vapor, or some air in the system, or the water needs to, you heat up the brakes and the water kind of starts to vaporize, and then all of a sudden you got a big bubble in your brake system, and you're fighting that. So let's first bleed these brakes and see what we got. It might come right back, but definitely have to address it. I don't think that's normal. Pulling better now. It seems to be a lot less of that mid-idle or that mid-range pop and spit. But let me see if I can get a little more of it to do it on this, like half throttle. Let's see. Look at that. It's starting to smooth out. I mean, could it just be gas? I mean, could have been. I mean, I don't think it's eliminated. I think it's, I've heard it before, but all of a sudden it's not doing it as much. I think some of that is just bad gas. It's just, your gas has been sitting in here, it's been burning some of it off. The needle shows like half a tank. So I'm gonna burn some of this off and then put some fresh gas before I do any, real fine tuning on the carburetors. Like I said, it's like if you're running on bad gas, see, there you go. See that? It's like right around mid-throttle. Yeah, it just, as you're driving and just thinking through my head what we could do. Another reason why this owner sent me the car is because his feeling is, he has no reference. He doesn't know what is correct on this car. I mean, when he got the car from me, 8-10 years ago, it was pretty good. I mean, I was happy with it, but he's driven it. He's done all sorts of stuff. I think he sent it to some other local guys for oil changes, and I'm sure there was a little bit of work being done to it. But again, sometimes they might not be as familiar with these cars, and just didn't get it tuned right. I checked timing today. First thing I did was before I got really into it, because I don't think it was a ton of mileage on the car, I just wanted to check to see what the carburetor balance was, because he was having trouble balancing the carburetors. he was having trouble getting it to idle down. So I said, okay, before I chase anything, let's check timing. Well, the 712 bank was out of adjustment. In other words, you couldn't turn the distributor any further. And what I was trying to get was, you know, to run at idle, which is AF 10 degrees before top dead center, and I couldn't get it. I was probably, you know, just a little, you know, 2 degrees, 3 degrees away from it, and that was all the adjustment that the distributors would give me. So I had to readjust the distributors so I could get more play, more advance. And, you know, maybe the other shop that was working on the car didn't know how to do that. You have to kind of take the distributor out. You got to adjust the setting, you know, the foot of the distributor so that you can get a little bit more adjustment. And now the timing is spot on. But those are the things that, you know, comes to me, and I know how to kind of do it. You know, look, these cars are not rocket science, but they're little tricks when you don't, you know, when you go out of adjustment, how to get more adjustment out of the distributors. But anyway, let's see. Let's get this in the shop and figure out a couple other things. Let me see what, I mean, well, let's see. Boy, this high idle just drives me nuts. I mean, it's better now. You can hear it. It's kind of now down to about 800. But what I do is, see that? It's so lazy. It should go snap up and down. And as the engine warms up, you know, now I'm seeing oil temp move. That carburetor or whatever warped base plate or something is just sucking in more air, and you can hear it just lazily coming down. And now it's like at 1,000 and dropping, 950. It's just lazy. There it goes. Now it's at 900. Now it's about 800. Cooling fans just kicked on. All right, well, let's see what we got. Let's take it inside.